Commission meeting for October 11th, 2021 is now in session. Would you stand, gentlemen, in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gregory Road, President of the Board. To my left is Commissioner Barb Lewis, Vice President. To my right is fellow Commissioner Jeff Hinton. Our Deputy Administrator, Tom Houston's with us today, as is our two clerks, Sarah and Jennifer. Let's begin.
Resolution number 21-963, in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held October 7th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-963. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We do not have any public comment today, so that brings us to item number 3, resolution number 21-964, in the matter of approving purchase orders and announced certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM APR 1008 and memo transfers in batch number MT APR 1008.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-964. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-965, in the matter of a new liquor license request from Ohio Springs Incorporated doing business as Sheetz and forwarding to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control with no objections and no request for a hearing.
No move. So move.
Second.
Motion made and second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-965. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-966, in the matter of accepting and approving the recommendation of the Union County Board of Commissioners for a maintenance assessment of 40% for the Ottawa Run Joint Ditch.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-966. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-967, in the matter of accepting an update to the ditch inspection report for 2001 and establishing the percent of maintenance assessments for 2022 to include Medallion Estates 8.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-967. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-968, in the matter of acknowledging receipt of the Delaware County Recorder's proposal for acquisition or maintenance of micrographic or other equipment and establishing the date on which the board shall meet with the recorder to review the proposal.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 21-968. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-969, in the matter of approving a transfer of appropriations for the Veteran Services Office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Gallagher, Director of the Veteran Service Office. This is a transfer of appropriation, kind of setting us up so that way we know what's going to happen at the end of the year. Just as a heads up, for example, this year we had budgeted for about less than $10,000 for transportation, and we're already, close to $30,000, with that, left to go. And then for financial assistance, we budgeted $70,000, and we're already at $81,000. As far as the transportation part of it, we know what's causing that. It's our outreach and doing more and assisting. As far as the financial assistance, I don't think I can put one particular, thumb on one object. It could be COVID, with jobs and stuff like that. There's a lot of other assistance out there for that. It could be our outreach. We're doing a lot more. We're doing a lot more in public. Word spreading, or it could be. I don't think this is all. Maybe some of it. Maybe some of the recent occurrence in Afghanistan, because we are seeing a lot more recently as far as stuff coming up. So this is a transfer to get us to where we're, setting everything up for the end of the year.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 21-969. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
And just real quick, I just wanted to mention that Veterans Day events are coming up in November, and the parade is on the 7th, here in the city of Delaware, and then on the 11th, which is Veterans Day. At 8:30 at the fairgrounds, we're doing the Veterans Breakfast, so we're using the new ag building for that. So we can space, there's tons of room in there. You can, space people, very well inside that building. And then at 11 o'clock out in front here, we're doing a Veterans Day event. And then there's also one in Powell. So if anybody has any questions as far as events or anything to do with veteran services, again, please feel free to.
How's the same time?
I believe so, sir. I'm not 100% sure. I'm probably about 75% sure on that.
That's well.
Which means that 25% is
Better
probably
than
gonna haunt
even.
me.
Yeah.
So you got it worked out with the fair on
Yes,
the
sir.
use of the facility. That's great. I think it's a really nice location. It's gonna be catered, I presume?
Yeah, all occasions is going to do the catering to the same organization that did the Veterans Dinner.
Yeah, they always do a nice job. So that's good. It's a great use of that facility, and it makes more people aware of just how nice that facility is.
Yep.
Any idea what size the breakfast will be as far as number of people?
Source Point is just now starting to accept applications, so they're still, the one where everything's funneling to. Where we're guessing it's gonna be maybe a little less than what they've had in previous years, so probably 200 to 250. It's not quite as well attended as the dinner. We're hoping to change that over the years, but, it's easier to do things in the evening, I think, than sometimes in the morning.
Will people be coming here and parking for the 11 o'clock event? Or will they be shuttling down here?
There'll be parking here. So we'll use the parking out back behind, on that day. Because, the offices and everything here will be shut down for Veterans Day. So there should be, plenty of parking between, right out here.
Well, and on Union Street too, or across from.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
That'll be open too, so
Yes.
just a block, so.
Very good.
So
All right.
thanks, the outreach that you're doing is just great.
Thank you. It's
Oh,
getting better, and all the partners that, we have, especially in this room, are, helping out,
yeah.
tremendously.
And you may want to mention, because I just noticed it the other day, you have a place where you can, flags that are,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
plays out
that's-
front there. You might want to
that's-
make mention of my wife. We saw it somewhere, because we have a flag that I need to bring, I haven't done it yet.
It's
But
doing
you may want to
marvelous.
mention it as well.
We've already, so it was placed last week on Wednesday, and then passed, a week ago. So, let me get this straight, so like a week and a half ago, it was placed out. And then that following Monday, it was full.
Wow.
And then we emptied it, and so from last Monday to this Monday, it was full again.
Really?
So yeah, so
Wow,
we've
that's
got
great.
2 containers of that, full of flags, so it's definitely doing the job.
Good.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
it
it's-
is.
I
Right.
forget where that spurred from. Somebody had mentioned something sometime, and you take note of it, and then you just take action on it. But yeah, it's been great, yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, you gotta come down and take a look at the number of flags that it's brought in, it's
In the
great.
county newsletter, that'd be a great story to get in our county newsletter as well, so you can talk to Jay.
We'll do that, we'll do that.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right,
that's
thank you.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Proceed.
Resolution number 21-970, in the matter of approving amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with Carpenter Martyr Transportation Incorporated.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
Good morning, Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. You're aware that we are currently working on several different grade separation projects. This contract involves the one on Cheshire Road. Carpenter Marty, we hired a couple of years ago to do the preliminary work on developing plans for a grade separated structure. They've done that. They've gotten through approximately 30 to 40% completion on the design plans. This action would authorize them to complete the final design, construction plans, and right-of-way plans for that project. Currently, the estimated construction cost for this project is about $7 million. So, pretty straightforward. It basically doesn't involve because if you can picture the Cheshire Road railroad crossing, there's a roundabout at the west end, there's a roundabout at the east end, and so this would basically fit right in between those two roundabouts. So It would involve a new 4-lane structure. We typically design our major structures for 75 to 100-year design life, and so we are making it wide enough to accommodate future pavement widening. It would initially be built, or the approaches rather would be built for 2 lanes, so striped as 2 lanes with the capacity to add more lanes in the future. So happy to answer any questions.
Do you have a timeline on this just yet? I'm sure you got so many big grade separation projects, I'm not sure how you prioritize them and so on.
This one's moving ahead pretty well. We think we could potentially break ground in 2024 on this one. It will take about a year to complete.
What happens to Gregory Road?
Gregory Road would be cul-de-sac as part of the, I believe it's Piatt Meadows, or one of the subdivisions in the northeast quadrant there. That action will actually happen as part of the subdivision development. And so there will be access to Gregory Road basically through the subdivision for Piatt Road.
Since we're talking about timeline, said something about my memory, I guess. Twice in the last week, leaving Powell, I end up on Hyatt. I get to 315, and I think, stupid me, so I have to go down to home or go north to get, when's that gonna open up?
Yeah, the Hyatt Road, we've got a small bridge just east of Liberty Road. We're putting a new superstructure on. That should be done within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So getting close on that one.
Very good.
Vote on motion 21-970. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-971, in the matter of approving right-of-way work permit summary sheet.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
We had 5 routine utility installation applications. We're recommending your approval.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 21-971. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-972, in the matter of approving the plats of subdivision for Olentangy Crossing, Section 4, Lot 7292, Division Number 1, Clarkshaw Moore, Section 5, Olentangy Falls East, Section 5, Evans Farm, Section 2, Phase A, Part 2, Evans Farm, Section 2, Part 1 and Part 2, and the courtyards at Clear Creek, Section 3.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
So you're aware we've got a lot of development going on. We have plats for several different subdivisions totaling 165 new single-family lots, and then 1 commercial lot at Olentangy Crossings that's being re-subdivided for the final user, which will be a bank. And so these have been through all the required county approvals. Regional planning has approved these, and now it's your turn.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 21-972. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
We have about 2 minutes
So
before.
let's go ahead, let's go through the remainder of the agenda, we'll come back to the viewing.
Okay,
So,
that brings us to item 13 for now. Or no, I'm sorry, item 14. Resolution number 21-973. In the matter of establishing Delaware County employee vision insurance rates and benefits for 2022 and 2023.
So move.
Second.
motion made and seconded, discussion.
Good morning, Dawn Houston, Deputy Administrator, and this resolution I'm recommending your approval would establish the vision insurance for employees for 2022. We will continue with VSP. They have offered us the same rates in our four-tier plan design, and have also offered us a buy-up option for employees who choose to have additional vision benefits. This resolution would lock our rates in for both 2022 and 2023. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them for you.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 21-973. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-974, in the matter of establishing Delaware County employee dental insurance rate benefits for 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
And once again, the dental insurance will remain with Delta Dental for 2022, the same rates and the same four-tier plan design structure. We also will contribute with the approval of this resolution, a $20 per employee per month for those employees who choose to participate in the county's dental plan. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them for you.
Questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 21-974. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-975, in the matter of establishing the 2022 health insurance employee cost share and establishing a surcharge for spousal health insurance coverage.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion.
Commissioners, as you are aware, the county received an 8.7% increase from SEBCO for our 2022 health insurance renewal. So we did a lot of exploration to determine where we should end up for our plan design and our benefits package for employees for 2022, and determined that the spousal surcharge of $50 a month would be beneficial for the county overall. And with the passage of this resolution, we would remain at the employee contribution of 12%, which is much lower than, as you know, the industry standard, which is at 15% or even higher. The rate structure will again be the four tiers that we've had over the last couple of years. We also will have the cost differentials in place for employees that choose to participate or choose not to participate in the wellness program. And the plan design will remain the same. Same copays, same contribution rates, same 100% premium coverage for preventive care items. So, you know, this was definitely a difficult decision, difficult recommendation, I know. We do see that spouses that are covered under the plan increase the plan's overall experience by about 30%, and that has been something that we've seen historically. There is a waiver option for certain spouses that can remain on the plan without having the cost increase for the spousal surcharge. And that would include if a spouse is unemployed or has been officially retired through an established retirement system, if the spouse's employer does not provide health insurance coverage or the spouse doesn't qualify for the employer's coverage, and if the spouse is employed by Delaware County. With that, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them for you.
Questions or comments?
Just thank you for your work on it, and a lot of thought went into this, and expertise from others who we consulted in the field.
Yeah, maybe just one other comment. Dawn alluded to an 8.7% increase in our claims. Our actual increase was higher than that.
Yes.
But
That's a
SEBCO
good point.
scaled back the premium increase charged to some counties that had higher claims. The last couple of years, we've had really high, big increases in claims. And that's everybody's responsibility to bring those claims down through wellness programs, preventive. I mean, there's just all sorts of things. Because obviously a double-digit increase isn't sustainable for the long term. So anyway, again, tough choices in this process because the county's experience has not been good the last couple of years. So anyway, again, I think if we've worked out the best solution possible, I think so. I want everyone for working on this.
Yeah, this is something a lot of thought went into, and I can't give you the exact number, but we were talking 12-13% if it hadn't been for the SEPCO equity buy-down, and to get the rates in the 8% bracket, and it's still a substantial increase, but it could have been much worse. And thanks to the creativity of a lot of people, we were able to accomplish that. And our goal was to make sure we have good health care for the county employees, and that sometimes requires some difficult decisions. Encourage everyone to use the wellness program, a great way to affect positively the cost of your insurance. And obviously, how we use it as we go through the calendar year has a lot to do with the experiences and what the cost will be next year. So we all play a role in that. We all, how we use our health care has a lot to do with what the costs are going to be in the future. So everybody, we want everyone to be taken care of, and we all need to make good decisions as it relates to our health care. With that, I call for the vote.
Vote on motion 21-975. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-976, in the matter of approving a memorandum of understanding to the collective bargaining agreement currently in effect between the Delaware County Board of Commissioners and the International Association of EMTs and Paramedics, Local R711 NAGE SEIU.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
Commissioners, this resolution with the EMS bargaining unit would recognize Juneteenth on June 19th in 2022 as a new holiday for the bargaining unit. In exchange, they would take the half-day as a deleted holiday for New Year's Eve, also in 2022, and I recommend your approval.
Questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 21-976. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-977, in the matter of recognizing Juneteenth as a holiday for certain non-bargaining unit employees and adopting an alternate county holiday schedule for calendar year 2022.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? Vote?
Vote on motion 21-977. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We do have one other item for other business. Resolution number 21-978, in the matter of approving a supplemental appropriation, a purchase order, and an invoice for administrative services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
So this resolution is necessary due to some unusual increased claims costs for workers' compensation, and basically is just moving money from our reserves to our fund in order to make those claims payments to Sedgwick, our third-party administrator.
Questions or comments? Vote?
Vote on motion 21-978. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to go to the viewing now?
Let's go with the viewing.
Viewing, okay.
While you're preparing that, I could go through the instructions if that's, is it going to take you very long?
Nope.
Okay, I'll just wait then.
Well, you can start whenever you would like.
Good morning, everyone. We have a hearing scheduled for 9:45 or after this morning, and with the viewing for location establishment of a new public road to be known as Reed Parkway. It's actually the viewing, and I welcome everyone to the viewing today that chose to attend. We're joined here today with representatives from the county engineer's office to familiarize ourselves with the area. We will view the proposed improvements through the use of drone videography and photography. Today is not the time for public testimony on the improvement. The time for public testimony on improvements will be during the hearing. and that is scheduled for October 14th, 2021. If, after having viewed the proposed location establishment of a new public road, the board finds that it considers the proposed improvement of sufficient public importance, it will instruct the county engineer to proceed and submit all necessary materials to the board for consideration at the final hearing scheduled for October 14th, 2021 at 9:45 a.m. With that, I'm going to turn that over to Rob Riley.
Okay. Again, my name is Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer with County Engineer's Office. This is a viewing regarding an establishment of a new public road in Berlin Township. You're aware that there are several different ways roads are established. This is one of them. The most common way we see in Delaware County is by subdivision plat as part of that process. This is another method where roads can be established without a subdivision. And so basically the law requires that your board view the area of the proposed public road and then conduct a hearing, which is scheduled for this Thursday. Your resolution a couple of weeks ago set the date excuse me, for today's viewing involving a new road extending off Lackey Old State Road for 1,101 feet going west. Here is a location map. We're about a third of a mile south of Route 3637 off Lackey Old State Road. Here's a little more detailed location map. You can see there's a kind of a row of single-family houses down the west side, and then an 80-foot wide access into the farm field. That is where we're talking about for the location of this road. Another view, this is the proposed alignment of the new road. As I said, that strip is currently a field driveway. That property is about 80 feet wide. This 1,100-foot segment of new roadway would use that. There would be no additional right-of-way acquired or necessary for the road other than that. We did get some drone video and photos last week, I believe, just to show you the newest version of what it looks like out there. Again, here's a photo depicting looking to the west from Old State Road. You can see at the bottom of the photo. This is where the road would go through. There is a common access drive, single-family subdivision on the south or to your left. As part of this project, the construction plans would include mounding to do some buffering between some of those houses and the new roadway. This is a depiction of the proposed pump station sites relative to the new road. Click down one more. Again, you can see the mounding and the relative location of the pump station site. And I think one final view, this is looking kind of east-northeast, showing the proposed road, mounding, and pump station site. Schedule, we are, of course, having the viewing right now. The public hearing is scheduled for this Thursday at 9:45. If you choose to establish the road after that hearing, we would move to open bids very shortly thereafter. Your board actually approved going out to bid. We will receive those bids in early November, and then pending successful or acceptable bids, I should say, we'll award a contract November 15th, start construction in the spring, and wrap up the work in the summer of next year. And that is all I have for the viewing.
I'll open it up for any questions from fellow commissioners.
What is to be built there? I mean, I know you said a pump station.
So the sanitary, we've been working closely with the sanitary sewer, the the regional sewer district, Tiffany
Okay.
Mag's office, to build a regional pump station that will serve the Berlin Business Park. And so that will be under a separate
Oh, okay.
contract. This project, or this matter, only involves the establishment of the new public road. And so this would serve
I see.
at least the initial part of the Berlin Business Park. The pump station, as I believe, will have capacity to serve the entire business park. Tiffany can probably speak more towards that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's an important part of this, is getting that pump station in place, because obviously we need sewer, we need water, all the infrastructure, and that's an important part. Now, how much can they do as your road is worked on? They can work in the interim on the initial cut of the road, I think, before you pave it?
Yeah, so again, we have been coordinating with Tiffany and their consulting engineer. The sanitary project basically involves two contracts, one for the pump station and another for the force main that will extend south on Lackey Old State Road to the pump station at the Pines, which is just, I don't know, a mile south, something like that. Our goal is to be finished by June. I would expect they'll begin construction of the pump station very shortly thereafter. That will take, last I talked to Tiffany, probably at least about a year, close to a year. The force main could be going on at the same time if they choose to start from the south end. Maybe a little difficult to try to do the road and the force main on site, because the force main would come in. Let me back up. Well, you don't have it.
Oh, I can put it back.
So just it would be on the north side, coming off of Old State Road, to your left of the red line, through that gap in the right of way, back to the pump station site. So I don't know that there's a tremendous time savings in trying to do those simultaneously, because I do know they have some more work to do on the engineering end.
Where would Reed Road go eventually? Right
I'll
now,
back up.
obviously ends.
Sure, let me back up a few slides.
I think that exact route alignment's uncertain at this point.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons I think we're stopping where we are, because once you go to the west, you can see right where that pointer is located is about the midpoint of this new 1,100 feet. As you go west, I could see that road potentially swinging a little bit to the north. Ultimately, I think it would go to Rollison Road and then extend west from there. But there's probably several different ways to get there. You could go straight west and then have a spur or a different road coming off to the north to service kind of those frontage lots along 37, or this road could swing to the north. So a lot of those questions we'll get answers to as developers come in and express interest and talk to the landowners and plan out with what size their lots need to be.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Is necessary step, is there anyone else here who has any comments regarding the viewing or any questions for Rob or commissioners? If not, as president of the board, the viewing is closed for Reed Parkway, and we'll have our hearing this Thursday.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have an item for the board to consider now that the viewing has closed. Item number 13 is for instructions for the county engineer. Resolution number 21-979, in the matter of instructing the county engineer to prepare and submit the necessary surveys, plats, descriptions, and reports for the proposed location and establishment of a new public road to be known as Reed Parkway, Township Road 1782.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 21-979. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye. With that, I believe the next order of business, I believe Eric Costello, our staff attorney, has a presentation for us.
Morning, Commissioners. Eric Hostetler, Staff Attorney. This morning, I just wanted to briefly provide an overview of Senate Bill 52, which is actually effective today. The bill grants boards of commissioners new authority with respect to local wind and solar projects. And the CCAO presentation on this was provided last month, so I'm borrowing from their slides. I took not the entire presentation, but just kind of the highlights, because it did a pretty good overview of the bill. So the types of projects that we're talking about are defined in the statute. Large solar farms are 50 megawatts or more. A large wind farm is 50 megawatts or more, and an economically significant wind farm is between 5 and 49 megawatts. And this bill is for these types of new construction of projects, and then also a material amendment, which is also defined. So that's just if you're increasing the size of an existing facility that requires a new certificate from the Ohio Power Siting Board. What the bill allows the commissioners to do is, this is all permissive, so the board is not obligated to do anything. But if the board wishes, you may adopt a resolution to prohibit the construction of these types of projects either throughout the entire unincorporated area of the county, or you can set up certain restricted areas within the county. Again, unincorporated areas, not incorporated areas. In order to do that, you need to provide notice, public notice, at least 30 days prior to the commissioner session at which you would be adopting that resolution. And that provides an opportunity for members of the public to come in and comment on the proposed action. You also have to specifically provide written notice to school districts, municipal corporations, and boards of township trustees that are located within those restricted areas that you might want to set up. If the board does adopt a restricted area within the county, that is subject to referendum. And the referendum petition would have to be submitted within 30 days of the date that you adopt your resolution. And here it states that the threshold for valid petitions is 8% of the number of registered electors who voted in the previous gubernatorial election. And that would be for the entire county. Whether or not the board adopts a restricted area for these types of projects, anybody who is planning to develop one of these wind or solar projects is required to hold a public meeting within the project area. And the board receives notice of that meeting at least 14 days prior. And that meeting is for the purposes of discussing the project, the nameplate capacity for the proposed facility, and showing a map of the boundaries for the project so that the commissioners become familiar with the impact and scope of the project. After that meeting, the board has an opportunity, I should back up, if you've set up a restricted area, they can't do a project within that restricted area. They can't apply for a certificate from the Power Siting Board. But after that meeting, the board has 90 days to adopt a resolution, and this would be in the case where you don't have a restricted area set up. And in that resolution that you could adopt within 90 days of the public meeting, you could actually prohibit the construction of the facility even if you don't have a restricted area established. Or you could limit its scope, the boundaries of the project. And if you take that action, no certificate can be granted for that project. The bill also adds members to the Ohio Power Siting Board for these specific types of projects. So it's not for all Power Siting Board projects, it's specific to these projects as defined in the statute. And President of the Board of County Commissioners or the President's designee is one of those new ad hoc members, as well as a chair of the Board of Township Trustees in an impacted area of the project, or that chairperson's designee. Now, if the project is located in multiple counties or townships, then the affected boards have to vote on who that representative is going to be. You don't get multiple counties getting members to the Power Siting Board. And the restriction on that is that if you have a designee, it has to be a resident or elected official from the same county or township. So there is some restriction on who you can appoint. The bill also contains some conflict of interest provisions. So if the ad hoc member or their designee or an immediate family member has a financial interest in the project, then that person cannot sit. This is also an important point. If the county is an official intervener in the matter, so recently we've intervened in a couple of Ohio Power Siting Board cases. If we were to do that, officially intervene in the certificate hearing process, then our ad hoc member would not be permitted to vote. You still have your seat, but you would not be able to vote. Some questions have come up and concerns raised about these types of projects and the decommissioning process if they were to be abandoned some date in the future. The law does require that any developer is required to submit a facility decommissioning plan to the Power Siting Board, and it has to list all the parties responsible for decommissioning, a schedule of decommissioning activities, and an estimate of the full costs of decommissioning. And they have to also post a bond that is then reviewed and updated every 5 years as costs increase over time. How decommissioning is handled would be a matter of contract between the parties involved in the actual construction of the facility, the landowners, the developer, but this process does at least ensure that money is there to decommission a project if for some reason it's abandoned in the future, including if the developer were to just go out of business and not maintain that project. The final point I wanted to raise to your attention is how does this impact pending certificates or applications? Ad hoc membership starts today, but any application that is already deemed complete and accepted as of today, obviously you're not getting positions added to that board. Now the actual projects that are in the pipeline, it separates out how they're handled for wind and solar. There's a little bit of additional time built in for an application that's already deemed complete and accepted. For a wind project, that date is November 10th. For solar, the commissioner review does not apply if the application is found to be complete and accepted by October 11th. I'm not aware personally of any of these projects occurring in Delaware County, so this likely does no impact on Delaware County. And I'm happy to take any questions you have. That's a quick overview of what your options are. If the board wished to take some action to set up a restricted area, I would prepare the public notice and resolutions necessary to do that. Again, you're not obligated to do anything. If you do not, I would suggest that we at least work on some objective criteria to set up in the event that we are notified of a project so that we can undertake the 90-day review and decision process on whether we would actually prohibit that facility from moving forward. Happy to answer any questions.
One of the questions that I heard from fellow commissioners was at the end of the life of one of these projects, the cost to return it to normal can be very expensive. Are the protections, if a commitment on the part of that solar company, it's only as good as the financial health of that company at the end of that period, is there any protection as far as bonding or anything?
Yeah, the developer is required to post a bond, and that is what is updated every 5 years, and that's based on the cost of decommissioning.
So
So
in
that's
theory,
built into the
that money
legislation.
would be there.
Yes, and whether it's sufficient, I don't have the expertise to tell you whether it be sufficient, but the process is at least there, and it is reviewed by people who do have the expertise on how much those decommissioning costs would be and updated every 5 years. So I think that's That's probably the best that they can do in terms of making sure that these facilities are not just abandoned and left to the property owners to clean up. And what the bill doesn't do is it does not dictate contractual terms. So any property owner that's entertaining a developer request to utilize their land for this purpose would want to make sure that they have legal counsel review their contract. But the way that I read the legislation, the developer is still responsible for posting the bond. And that's what would be used to decommission if it got to that point in the future.
I think there is a life cycle to these projects. I don't know, 25, 30, 40 years, but there is a, so just to clarify, and I'll open it up to my fellow commissioners, even if we said we were going to, do the whole county, make it off limits, theoretically, you can still do projects. They just have to come and designate the land. Is that correct or incorrect?
Well, the restricted area that you would set up would be in place for a continuous period of time, but it's not permanent. So if a project came along, they would not be permitted to seek an application for that project within the restricted area, but the board could modify the restricted area to allow a project. But it would take some action on your board, and any changes to the restricted areas follows the same notice, hearing, referendum process. So it's not set in stone, but you'd have to go back through the process to make any changes in the future if you wanted to allow a project that is within a restricted area. If you don't set up any restricted areas, they can announce a project, they being the developer can announce a project that they're planning within Delaware County, and then you would have those 90 days after their mandatory public meeting to say whether you're going to prohibit it or not. And so it would have the same impact as setting up a restricted area, but you have to take an active role on each individual project.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, this is an area I've spent some time working on, solar power in particular. Our commissioners in the various counties to the west of us have become active in these endeavors, and they've attracted a number of projects either already completed or in process. And just talking to them, you know, in certain counties, certain areas, it probably makes a lot of sense. Here in Delaware County, I think we're a unique situation in that our land in Delaware County in particular is valued according to development value. And so I think the ag community that I've talked to a number of members of the ag community in particular, they're reluctant to engage in a transaction like this because this would tie up their land for 20 to 30 years. So I think I'm not hearing any interest in Delaware County of moving forward on solar projects in particular. I've never heard any interest in wind projects. Studying this, we're not in the best Sun Belt area of Ohio, not the University of Ohio is the Sun Belt, but the kind of the Sun Belt runs kind of northwest of 71, again, if you want to call it a Sun Belt. So we're not in a really high area for good sun to promote solar projects. That plus the development value and a lot of the concerns of the environmental community, the concerns of the ag community about committing their land, after this project is done, you have these solar panels. Technology is constantly changing. 5 years from now, the solar panels that are in place could be completely obsolete. So there's just a lot of question marks about this. So again, from a practical standpoint, I just don't see a whole lot of interest in Delaware County in solar and wind projects. So again, I applaud the legislature for addressing it and leaving it largely up to local control. I think that's a really good thing. The counties and townships know their communities best. So I want to applaud the legislature for basically setting it up that way.
So the question, I think, is, are we better served by having a resolution that makes it county-wide off limits, and then we address specific projects if they were to occur? And I think it puts us in the best position probably to protect the landowner's interest and the township, who obviously would have input into that, versus doing nothing and dealing with it if it comes up. And that's as much a question as it is a recommendation. I probably would tend to favor the former. Obviously, a landowner has certain rights that we need to protect, and I think we want to protect those.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, when you put a prohibition in place or a moratorium in place, you're telling those private property owners that they can't do something with their land. I hear what Commissioner Benton is saying, is that from the conversations he's had, we don't have anybody who's interested in that, but if there are, you would be saying you can't do that with your land.
There's
So
still a process.
There's a process, you would invite those people in, and you could hear that directly from them, or maybe you don't hear anything. And that's why you're not obligated, even if you go forward with the notice and establishing a restricted area, you still have to hold the hearing, and you're gonna hear from people, whether that be other governmental leaders or private property owners, and that'll give you a better sense of what the opinions are. So I don't necessarily see a downside to exploring a restricted area. It's just a matter of, do you wanna be selective about it, or do you wanna, kind of put a blanket up there? And that's just the proposal. You could decide at the hearing to not proceed with it if you get feedback that you weren't expecting.
I do favor setting up a restricted area. It still gives us the flexibility as is being discussed here. I did speak with a farmer last week, and someone had approached him who was interested in building some solar, and this person told the farmer, well, we'll take 100 of your 150, and the farmer said, but wait, that means I can't farm on my other 50. Anyway, the farmer turned it down, but I think we want to be proactive, set up a restricted area. The flexibility is there for us and for the property owner, and there is no public outcry in any sense of the word to do it. And I would also argue, Sunbelt is a real stretch when you're thinking of Ohio, but anyway.
Oh, we do have wind here.
We do have wind, you're right, that's right. Probably more in the northwest section of Ohio, which you can attest to, Eric.
Absolutely.
I think what we're hearing from Commissioner Lewis, which I think I support as well, is if we had a blanket across our county for the areas that we have authority over, it doesn't preclude anyone from doing it. We still have the opportunity to protect landowners' rights if they want to go down that road, but we do create an environment where there is conversation. And I guess we'll also find out if there is a hearing, whether our theory is accurate or inaccurate based on the response we get from the community.
Right.
So I would tend to think we'd want to move forward, but Commissioner Benton?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that, as long as there is a process for the landowners to appeal, if you will, and carve out a non-restricted area within a restricted area, and that's in play, that would be in place. So yeah, that's not a bad approach. Again, I'm just not hearing any interest. To Commissioner Lewis's comment, they're being approached. The farmers are being approached. These solar wind companies developers are approaching our ag community in particular. But like she said, there are a whole bunch of reasons why it just doesn't seem to be of interest right now.
Well, I think that's a reason, because I do think the land values will play a significant role. And I think that's probably a good reason to move forward, because that project that we maybe can't identify, it'd be much harder to say, in this little area, we're not gonna do it, in this little area, that would get unwieldy and very difficult to do. We'd be better off doing nothing versus, it's either nothing or do everything, I think, is the alternatives. In between, I think it's unwieldy.
Yeah, I do have some concerns if we were to not establish a restricted area and just deal with these projects as they come up. We might be hit with a project that we think is a really bad idea for multiple reasons, and then we have to make sure that we have the objective criteria set up to deny that project. Now, there might be litigation involving this legislation overall, but if we take specific action against a project that's proposed, we're probably going to be litigation over that. Restricted area, as you've said, kind of takes us out of the individual project review. It actually kind of reverses it, because we would have the ability of a good project, whatever that looks like, I don't know what one would look like, but if a good project came along, you would have that ability to go back and revisit your restricted area, and you do the hearing, the notice, and again, it would be subject to referendum. So if the general public was really not okay with changing the restricted area, then they would have an opportunity to say so. But that's probably a good approach, what you're proposing, and I can, if I'm hearing correctly, I'll just go ahead and
So is
prepare
there any
that.
objection for Larry?
No.
That makes sense.
I think you have our direction to move in that direction.
Great,
Thank you, Harry.
sure.
Thank you, Eric. With that, I think we're down to reports,
Reports.
and Don?
I have just one other item. Along the lines of health and wellness, the HealthWorks portal is open for participation in the wellness program for 2022. Everything that employees are doing toward their wellness will go back to August 14th, I believe, of this year, and will continue to August of 2022. This program year is going to be much easier to complete and is not based upon actual points. And
Much more
is-
customer friendly.
it is more customer friendly and will be a check-the-box type system. That also includes the wellness visit with a primary care physician or a physical. So I greatly encourage employees to participate. It's going to be much easier than in years past, and it is a good way for them to stay ahead of their health and make sure that they're getting all their preventive care done that they need, and is definitely a driver to reduce our health insurance premiums. And that's all I have today.
Thank you.
Kind of to expand on that it will be administratively easier for the employees and family members, as well as the physicians, primary care physicians in particular, who had to fill out paperwork to comply with the requirements
Yes.
of the previous program. So, again, it'd be easier to do in general, which is good.
Same
With
great
that, I know
program.
that Commissioner Benton has a lot of accolades and compliments he wants to pass out. Rather than his impatience, I'm going to start with him today. So, Commissioner Benton.
Yeah, Ohio State looked great over the weekend.
They really
They were
did.
the best of all the teams that played this weekend by far, so. We need to-
They really look like champs, didn't they? Yeah.
Commissioner Merrill and I attended the Jailhouse Rock dinner Friday evening, and that was entertaining. Jeff Robinson and Judge Hemanowski were kind of co-MCs, and it was very entertaining and raised a lot of money for helping to pay off the debt on the jail that the Historical Society now owns. So again, very well attended, sold out,
So,
plus, and I don't know what the final total, but they raised quite a bit of money, which was really nice to see. The community really is behind that, so I think it'll do well going forward. Morpsey, we had our executive committee meeting on Thursday. It was interesting in a couple ways. Morpsey is pushing this economic development district creation, which is a creation at a federal level to get more economic funding, economic development funding for the region. So they're moving forward on that. That's good. Also, Delaware County picked, as a result of the census, Delaware County has one more member on Morpsey's board. Instead of 5, we're now up to 6.
oh, no, so we'll have to,
Yeah, so we have to add one Delaware County representative to Morpsey.
we'll have to get a posting out for that.
I
Could.
assume, yeah. I mean, that's likely would be the way to go. But again, we do have one more as a result of our population growth. The OPWC grants processing should be done in December. Rob, that's probably something you're intimately aware of and working on. But investment committee meeting tomorrow, records commission meeting Wednesday. That's it.
Commissioner Lewis.
I was reappointed to the National Association of Counties Justice and Public Safety Steering Committee. Okay, that's a mouthful. But anyway, we had a Zoom meeting, one of our first Zoom meeting for this following year, and for the end of '21. So we'll have a legislative conference in February in DC, and we're expected also to go to the national convention in the summer as part of our responsibilities on this committee. That's it.
I really don't have anything to add today, other than Commissioner Benton was talking about the Jailhouse Rock. Judge Simonowski indicated they had many more people for the tour than they were anticipating.
Oh, really?
So the curiosity level was higher. I guess assumption is everybody had seen it at one time or another they wanted to, but apparently that wasn't the case. And Judge Simonowski was, I don't know if he was the only tour guide or one of the tour guides, but and he was in costume.
He was a big
So
competitor,
as is traditional for him, whatever the event is. With that, we do have need for executive session.
We do. Resolution number 21-980, in the matter of adjourning into executive session for consideration of appointment, employment, and compensation of a public employer, or public official, and for collective bargaining.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made in second, discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 21-980. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
With that, we're now in executive session.